So welcome back. The last time I spoke to you, I was dealing with the Duke of York, the timing on that, having just repaired the expansion links, and I've since put it back away in its little home. As it happens, this morning I've adapted its little home because it's there under the blanket, but it's grown. I've made an extra level which I can put the tender on. Let's get a bit closer and I can show you what I've done, just out of interest. If I can get this off. So here we go. So, this cradle that it lives in, that the Duke lives in, the chimney and the dome are a little bit higher than this frame. So I've made a little frame that sits on top of that, that just has a set of rails and holds the tender. And it's also got this little clip at the front with a drawbar sticking out the front that the pin locks into, so that holds it nice and stable. So, with that out of the way, what's next? Well, I'm going to take a little look at a few little teething problems with Enterprise. Now, I don't like taking engines apart during the summer. If it still runs, then it still runs. Especially when other engines have been failing. So, for general passenger hauling, this and the Duke are my favourite two. Ginty, I don't really want to use too much for passenger hauling. It's a little bit more awkward to repair when it goes wrong, to be honest. So, let's take a look at what is on the to-do list with this now that it's the winter. So predominantly this side that I've got issues with. Trying to remember now. I think there's a little bit of play in the little ends, but nothing too much to worry about. My bigger issue is this. That expansion link is all over the place. Now the reason for it is the pin on the inside has come out of the link. It's still there, it's just not in the expansion link anymore, so it can rock. So I'm going to take this apart and see if I can solder it in. So we're going to be doing pretty much the same as we did on the other engine. Pull the link apart, which means I'm going to have to take off this piece of plate to get to the top half of the link. I might even be able to take this bracket apart while that's off. We'll see. But on the Duke, what I was able to do was take the pin out there and take the rod off, and take the pin out there and take the expansion link off. But I can't do that on this. However, I don't need to. I only need to get it out the way enough to get these outer plates off. So let's take a look at what we can do. Every time I've taken this apart in the past, it was on my other trolley, which allowed me to get up either side of the rails and get to everything underneath. Now I'm on the hydraulic trolley, I've had to come up with another plan. So I've just tilted it over, put some wood under these wheels, and then I can get to the screws that hold this on quite happily. So with that running plate out of the way, yes, there's 4 bolts at the top, 2 bolts at the top, 2 bolts at the bottom, which if I take out, I should be able to strip it apart and get it all out the way and take it apart in situ. But if I can't get it out, is these 3 bolts in the motion bracket and this one at the bottom. They might be enough to release it. We'll see, but we'll have a go at just taking it apart in situ first. Out of interest, I haven't touched it yet. I just thought I would show you. In the back, you can see the pin sticking out. Now, I had a go at trying to Loctite that in place during the season, but I just couldn't get in there to clean it to be able to Loctite it in. So I'm going to take it apart and try and solder it back in. So there we go. Taken apart, and to help me remember, make sure things go back in the right place. The top spacers and bolts are there, and the lower spacers and bolts are there. So they just need to go back in as they go together. And here is the offending piece. So I'll give it a good clean up, solder that in, and then reassemble. I may even see if I can get this one out as well. Playing around one-handed is not easy, but I think I'll be able to get it out. There we go. So I could even see if that's loose or likely to move, and maybe just drop a dab of solder in there as well, just to make sure it stays put in the future, because I believe I've had the one the other side drop out, or the outer pins start to work its way out in the past. But I will, just in case they're different, make sure I keep them the right way round. So I'll put that back for the time. Oh, well, I don't need to, because I know that's the outer one. So let's take a look at cleaning up and soldering. So first things first, I have given these a quick clean with a rag and some WD-40, which has got the worst of the muck off. And next I will be moving on to some degreaser, rapid cleaner. So I'll clean it with this, and then I can look at soldering. I was going to add, but I forgot. So that's the pin that was there, and it just drops in nicely-ish, so probably could get away with a Loctite fit, but as I've got it off, I will silver solder it, and then it will never come out. So I gave this outer one a little tap with a hammer, because it looked like it was a little bit loose. Well, not loose, but I could see a gap, and I think it was Loctited as well. I've cleaned it all up, same way. I'll solder them both together at the same time. As you can see, there is a difference between the two, so it was obvious which one's inside and outside. So I will now heat it up, solder it, then let it cool down while I go and get on with something else, which may be dinner. Don't know if you saw that. At a glance, I wasn't 100% sure that it's soldered on the back and penetrated right through, but we'll wait and see what it's like when it's cooled down. So I'll be back in a moment. There's one cleaned up. Looks like the solder made it through okay. We'll clean the other one up and then start getting it back together. And just like that, they're both cleaned up. And again, looks like there's nice penetration solder around that side. So we'll put this back together and see what happens. So now it's all reassembled in place. There's sideways movement in the clearance on the pins, but it's not rocking about all over the place like it was before. So hopefully that will sort out some of the noise she had. And there we go, back together and back on the rails. The only other main problem I could think of at the moment was the drain cocks. So on this side, that forward one keeps coming off. So what I might have to do is look at taking the drain cock off, taking the drive bolt out, and getting it, get the lever arm attached onto the square that's on the inside a bit more solidly. So there's the drive arm taken off. And I was just about to start unscrewing the drain cock, but it's quite tight at the moment, so I don't seem ashamed to move it. So what I'm actually going to do is take the nut off the outside. If you can see, take that nut off the outside, push the taper plug out the other side, take it to the vise, do something with it, clean it up, maybe put on some Loctite and spread the square, and then put it back on. So having taken that out, I've positioned the arm on the square with the hole in the right place, because obviously the hole needs to be vertical for them to be open. I've checked that this one's open by putting a bit of rod through it. So when that arm's forward, it's open. Hole, up, arm, forward. So now I just need to take that away and clean it up and do something with it. So with all the soldering kit out still, I decided to clean it up and just put a dab of solder on. Maybe overkill, but it was here and it was easy, so I've done that. So while I put this back together, I thought I would explain thought processes. So for a start, I've just dropped it in the hole. And I'm just working it from side to side just to lap it back into the hole. Then the washer on, then the nut on. So why did I choose silver solder? Well, I did consider just cleaning it up, putting it back on with some Loctite, but then I thought, well, if I do that, there's always the chance it will work loose again, especially with the heat from the cylinders. Obviously you've got steam coming out and cylinders full of steam. And then I thought, oh, well, what about soft solder? Well, that had the same problem. Although it would probably take, it will take a higher temperature than the Loctite. I just thought it wouldn't be quite so effective, really. And I had the silver solder sitting there, so it just seemed sensible to give it a go. So that's put back on now, and maybe while I had it off I should have cleaned up the actuating arm, but I didn't. So let's take a better look. So the taper cock runs through the centre with a cross-drilled hole. It's a taper, so as it sits in the hole, that's what makes the seal. I did clean up the arm after I'd soldered it. This is the actuating rod that I thought maybe I should have cleaned and given it a rub down. I will have a look around the other linkages to see if they're likely to drop off, and if they are, then I'll do the same thing again. So there we go. It's quite a tight thread on the end of this nut, so the nut doesn't come undone as you operate the drain cocks. And same with that one, the bolt is tapped into this arm and there's no lock nut on the other side, so there's always the chance that could come loose, but it doesn't seem to. But that would be ideal for a drop of Loctite on it to stop it coming undone. So there we go. I'll go around, check on the others, make sure it's all tight, and then while I'm working on it, I'll check that they're all closing and opening properly, but that might necessitate a bit of air going into the boiler. And like I say, there we go. It does all need a good clean up, so that might be a job coming up to give it all a good clean up. And while I'm going around cleaning it, check for any wear here and there. I think there's a bit in the little ends, not too bad this side, but the other side might be worse. We'll have a look at that. Rods feel spot on. Last time I rebushed this, I did it in cast iron, so I don't anticipate any wear in the coupling rods. In fact, the only bush I didn't do last time out was the middle big end. It's a split big end and it was a bit of a pig, but so that might still stay again. So yeah, I will, next time out, I'll give it a good clean up right through. I might in situ just rub down the cylinder, give that a repaint and reline the cylinder, and then reline the red line under here. But other than that, I think we're more or less good to go. So that'll be it for tonight. I've had enough. The cleaning up will come another day, and then if I find anything else that needs fixing, I will share that with you. This engine always been a bit of a reliable workhorse for me. With the 3 cylinders, even when it's been running badly, it's still been a really good engine. I've had it where one of the valve heads has been knackered and it's just blowing steam everywhere, but there was another 5 halves of cylinders doing the work, and it was still running well, or well enough, using a bit more water and steam and everything, but these days she's pretty good. I tend not to give her much attention during the season because I don't want her out of service. I know what I've done here, I've done in an evening or a day, but in the future it may be that you find something else while you're taking things apart, or things don't go to plan. And when I had another engine out of action as well, it wasn't a good idea to start taking this one apart. So unless it breaks, I tend not to touch it, and she's just always gone well. So that's why she doesn't tend to get much attention, but that's only because she was built so well in the first place, and such a credit to Adrian who built it. So enough of me rambling. Thanks for watching. Over the moon that so many people have been subscribing recently, all thanks to that one video that's just gone mental. So for now, entering the beer fridge, and I'm going to have a nice cold one to round off the evening. So once again, thanks for watching, and I will catch up you another day.